I had added myself to the stage. Um, my God, my memory. I'm getting old. I hopefully you saw. I'll actually show you guys a clip or two. But I went on. Oh, we have a Hal Sparks raid. That's always a great start. Hello, sparklers. Welcome. And sorry that Hal Sparks is much more competent with the technical stuff than I am. He's funny and technically competent. I'm sort of funny, I hope, and technically, a doofus. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, and I'm excited to have you all here. Today is actually the first time that I am also RTMPing, if that's a word, to Substack. So, hey, Substackers who are here. We're hitting our Twitch folks. Thank you for being here. We're hitting our YouTube folks. It's a big party. It's crazy. Can see and hear you. Great picture quality from Barbara Penegot. Penegot? Is it French? Penegot. I don't know. Awesome. Thank you. I see a lot of familiar faces here. It makes me miss doing this. By the way, in a few weeks, I'll be doing the Tuesday one again because Matt will be out of town. So, and I've got my Thursday one tomorrow. That's just Substack at 2 p.m. Eastern. But let's, I can sum up today what we're going to discuss very easily. Trump freaking, Tesla crashing, Vance killing, and Dems celebrating. It's, it wasn't quite alliteration, but it was a little poetic. Donald Trump is losing his mind right now. I mean, he's, again, comparatively, right? Like if on the scale of 1 to stupid, you're already like at 98% stupid. If you get to 99% stupid comparatively, you're losing your mind more. Well, with a combination of things that have been going on recently, from good old drunken Mick defense secretary, you've got that's not making Donnie happy, and leaks from the White House that are messing with his policy, which are good for us because they helped avert. Ooh, I'm being texted. They helped avert. Hey, look, it looks like I sent Tony the wrong link. Right one coming. See, guys, what would you do without me if I were here and I actually were competent? Wouldn't you be embarrassed? I'm going to tell Tony and you guys a story of like what happened when I first got here earlier, and I was like freaking out because I didn't see anybody. It's related to what he's writing to me about. But where were we? Yes, Trump losing his mind. He's a little bit upset and about all the stuff going on around him. And it ended up averting probably more economic damage that his people leaked what he was planning. So, hey, we've got new Trump leakers now. Good for you. I still don't know how you work for that schmuck. And you may want to question your life's choices that got you there. But hey, at least you can help us out. I also have to let David Shuster, in case he can make it. No, I sent him the wrong link. Is the right one. Sent you the wrong one. Oops. There you go. You also get to hear what I have to say along the way. Should I talk about why Dems are why I'm celebrating as a Democrat right now? And I don't want to be a dick, but I am by nature. Hey, let's get Tony in here. He's here already because I finally sent him the right link. As somebody said, it wouldn't be this show. It wouldn't be Cliff's Edge or Cliff Schechter or whatever without some technical difficulties. I'm owning that. I think it's part of my charm.
I mean, you could call it charm, I guess. That is a word you could use. That is a word
hurts, Tony. I mean, here I go.
Yeah, well,
we're close and we've built this great relationship.
I click on a link expecting to get into a studio, and I'm like, what the.
So
yeah.
You want to let me tell you that story. So I mean, you ever like have a fear, that you're going to throw a party and nobody's going to show up. I don't know how I ended up in the wrong studio, but I did, and I was like, holy shit, it's 1:58, and usually people come a couple bits early. There's nobody here. I'm like, I'm going to get nobody. And I'm just going to sit here talking to myself for an hour. I'm like, a couple people come in and comment and, and let me know they're here. A couple of the regulars and are awesome. I was like, what did I do, man? I don't know. I was that unlikable. I can order donuts, unlike J.D. Vance. I didn't kill the Pope or break the OSU trophy
So what the hell did you do?
I don't know. I must have had another window open and gone into it accidentally.
Oh, okay. All
But
right.
here's the yin and the yang, if you will.
Yeah, okay.
Really an imbecile. On the other side of things, I got Jim Acosta to say fuck on air.
Yes, I watched that yesterday. I was actually watching at that point. I watched for, I don't know, about 5 or 10 minutes.
That was one of my. I mean, I may have to use that clip. I mean, he said something was bullshit or something like that. I was like,
I think you said that he usually uses the fuck on Fridays.
Right. He doesn't
Like
do it till
he
Fridays.
reserves it.
He does.
Why would
Like
you?
if you,
It's such
so
a good word. Why would you reserve it? I actually am going to judge Jim Acosta a little bit for holding that.
No, you're
word.
not. No, you're not.
I am.
As long as I get invited on that show, he's a god here who cannot be touched.
Oh, okay.
No, I actually, it's so funny when you meet some people that, and they're under the strictures of like CNN or wherever, and so you must behave in a certain way.
Mhm.
Because to me, going on that show was like he is besides he's a good anchor. Oh, knew that he's willing to speak out against Trump and all of them. That's why they pushed him out. They were like, "Hey, would you like the 2:45 a.m. slot?" And he's like, "Hey, fuck you, I'm going to Substack." But I didn't know that like he was this guy who would just conversationally throw out curses and be funny and make jokes, and because he probably couldn't do that there. So yeah, he said something was bullshit or shit or whatever it was, and I was like, "You can." I think I said, "I'm like, you can fucking curse on here."
You know how to curse. You know how to curse.
I'm like, but I think I purposely threw it out myself, and he's like, like, "Well, I usually don't use that one except for Fridays." I was like, "Come on." And then he threw it out. We may have video I can show you all if I can make that work.
Cut it up, make
properly.
a clip.
We're definitely in the process of making a clip to put out everywhere. But I was saying the people who are smart enough and cool enough to be here at this live stream may get to see it before everybody else. Well, except for the people that were watching the other day. But I can't help that. It's not my show.
Do it live. We'll do it live.
Do it live. I've always wanted to just sort of start stuff.
So what are you talking about today? What's your topic?
Well, I gave people a little bit of a rundown. There's 4 topics, and I thought they could all be summed up pretty neatly, which is Trump freaking, which is good for us. It's always good when he's freaked out, but this was like some leakers in the White House really helped us out in getting him to back off what would have been even more of the dumbest fucking economic moves ever, and that would have sent the market reeling again. The market is actually going up today because he didn't make those moves because they were leaked. So it's Trump freaking, Tesla crashing. Have you seen the Tesla first quarter numbers?
Yeah, it's like 71% down.
They're outstanding.
I think they need to lay off Elon. What do you think? I think they need to fire him. There needs to be layoffs happening.
But he doesn't get it because there's some big investors and other folks started saying, leave, stop doing Doge. And he's trying to he just can't give up whatever he thinks the power is in that, or I guess stealing all of our data, because he was like, no, don't worry. It's not going to be once a week. I'm only going to do it. It's only going to be 20% of my time. Remember, it's like, dude, okay. You have 2 or 3 companies. You've run them like shit because you're already doing too many things. You have 112 kids. Now, luckily, you ignore most of them. So I guess that doesn't take you a lot of time. But I think there's 1 or 2 of them that you bring to the White House to wipe any excess snot on the Resolute desk. So, those guys you pay attention to. Or that one, I don't know, the one that basically insulted Trump. So that, I mean, I like that kid for that reason. But he's already doing all that. And it's like 20%. And it's like, gee, I wonder how this guy who we all know stole his ideas and all the other stuff and has no idea about branding and about, appealing to the people that actually buy your product. Like, let's say liberals who buy his cars would say something like that and think he can get away with it. Nobody's going to care if you say you're just there for 20%. You're still aligned with firing people, with fucking our economy, and with hanging out with Donald Trump.
Right.
And that is going to destroy Tesla.
In all fairness here, I think a lot of the country, when May and June finally hit, because May and June is going to be the worst economic situation that we've been in since April of 2020. April and May of 2020 were really bad. I don't know if anyone remembers why it was bad.
COVID,
right?
Bad. Yeah.
And
you've noticed I don't care anymore. I'm going to curse and say stuff like that because I'm RTMPing to Substack now too.
Oh, okay.
So if YouTube decides if they decide that want to be a bunch of little
you
want
to unchain me on your show? Is that what?
Don't go fully unchained, because
don't go full Tony Michael.
Because I don't. If they just demonetize this one thing, I'm okay. If they demonetize my whole channel,
just the tip. Just
Yeah,
the
I can't
tip.
exactly. I can't have them demonetize the whole channel. That's still a needed source of
Yeah,
revenue.
sure.
But
Well,
oh, you
I
go
guess
ahead.
what where I'll go is, what was I saying? I
You're
forget.
talking about COVID and
Oh,
if we
yes,
could
yes,
get to
yes,
the
yes.
worst economic times, and you're right.
It's really bad economic times now for weeks, if not months. But I think weeks is probably a better characterization of this. I've been saying that watch Walmart, watch their layoffs, and on Monday,
That's for a
the
couple smart reasons. Yeah.
CEO of Walmart, the CEO of Home Depot, and the CEO of Target all went to, and I guess the CEO from Lowe's was invited as well, and they basically
I don't
told
know about Lowe's or Target. Those first two are
Target was there. Target
major
was there.
Republicans.
Walmart
Just for
and
people's information. I mean, I'm sure people know Walmart, but also they may not know the CEO of Home Depot is just a
yeah,
huge
well, and these people
Langone
aren't
is a
really
prick.
like Republican conservatives in the sense that of their political ideology. They just want lower taxes and be able to, shit on their workers. Like that's what they
Well,
really want. That's what they really
that
they
is
want to
somewhat
they want to
traditional Republican.
maximize. They want to
But
maximize profits, and the
yes,
political party that absolutely supports them in maximizing profits, any which way they can, is the
but
Republican
but
Party.
Tony, to say quickly, that actually is the most traditional part of the Republican Party.
I mean,
Like that's
since
the
the
one. Those are the
1980s, yeah, sure.
no,
Late
actually,
70s, early 80s,
really,
yeah.
with the exception of Teddy Roosevelt and a few people, Eisenhower
You
breaking
mean
in
the
at times.
liberals that
If you go back
resided
to
in
even
the
the 19
Republican Party?
well, if you even go back to the 1920s, what did Calvin Coolidge did? He
Right.
deregulated, he cut taxes. What did McKinley do? He deregulated, he cut. I mean, like that the two things that have
Well, that's
well,
because
it's
they
really
were
one thing
conservatives.
overall. The
Yeah,
Republicans
but
have been for the business class traditionally, with a couple
you know what's my
interregnums of
favorite thing to do?
yeah.
When you go to like someone who, like in their office and they're Republican and they have a photo of like a painting of Abraham Lincoln on the wall, and I
Mhm.
always like to say, I'm glad that you have one of our most liberal presidents hanging on your wall.
Yeah.
It infuriates and like, what are you talking about? He's a Republican. I'm like, yeah, he's liberal. Actually at the time he was described not as liberal but as radical is what
Yes,
he
he
was
was.
described as.
I
He
mean,
was
somebody who
described
believes
as
in racial
radical.
equality and
Right.
instituted the first income
Yes.
tax in the history of the United
Mhm.
States. Yeah, you
Mhm.
love that guy.
Right. And he was so radical that he was willing to use federal power that his party really didn't truly believe in having a huge consolidated power in the federal government. And this is where
He
this
was a
is
little more
where
Whig than Republican, I think, in that
well,
way. But
right,
go ahead.
but in that space where we have um, this idea that there's certain things that are conservative and certain things that are liberal. Like, I mean, there's definitions to words, and there's clear intention in policy. Um, and the problem that we have right now is there's no liberal or conservative policy being placed. It's all fascist, or it's just plain dumb. I don't actually believe that this trade policy is actually rooted in fascism, other than it's rooted in some sort of harebrained thought that Peter Navarro wrote in a book somewhere because he read about Smoot Hawley and he was like,
I'm
"Oh, they
going to
just
disagree
didn't do
with you
it
on that
good
in a
enough."
second, but
Yeah,
go
go ahead.
ahead. No, no,
Yeah,
no. You go for you finish your thought, and I mean, not fully disagree with you, but there is one thing I would say. Go ahead.
but when we approach May and June of this year, and these layoffs come because Walmart, Target, and Home Depot went into the Oval Office the other day, and I think this is basically what they told Donald Trump. You realize that our stores in 2 weeks are going to be completely empty because of you. And you realize in 2 weeks, because the stores are going to be completely empty, social media is going to be
Oh
inundated
God,
with
yeah.
pictures of our stores on social
We
media.
won't even
And
have enough Russian bots
right.
to fool people.
And they are going to blame it, every single bit of it, on you. And the reason why is because we are going to say it's your fault. This is
Oh,
your fault.
yeah.
We
I
are
bet they
going to
did.
say to our customers, to the world, on social media, to the public, the reason why our shelves are empty in America, because Walmart shelves other places are not going to be empty as they are here. They're not. Walmart is an international company. And
Yeah.
and I'm telling you, they went to the White House and they basically dressed down the president of the United States. And the monopoly state as much
that's a
as, you know, I rail
disgusting
against the
picture,
monopoly state.
dressing him down.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The monopoly state has spoken here because Donald Trump stepped over a line. They were okay with fascism, right? They were okay
yeah.
with that. Yeah. They were okay with fascism.
Fascism for us, they were okay
Right.
with, not for them.
Right. They did not want this to affect their bottom line. And the fact that fascism isn't the thing that's affecting their bottom line is just plain unadulterated stupidity, because that's what this is. This trade policy is just dumb. It's just dumb. There's no other way to describe it, because any outcome that they say they want, this would never be the means that meets those ends. It never would be. Right. Because this is not going to accomplish, this is going to do the opposite, and is clearly doing the opposite. And I think the thing that I struggle with the most here of what's going to happen in the coming weeks is that the American people are going to just fly headfirst into this brick wall and not even realize it. I think that's scarier than the brick wall itself, because the brick wall itself, I think we can overcome it with time, right? I mean, yes, Donald Trump's still the president. He's still going to do really dumb things. He's still going to lash out when he feels weak and when he feels attacked. So he's going to lash out, and those things are
80% of the time. We should,
right?
I mean, if we're being honest, I mean, that's just, you know,
it's going to affect us, and it's going to affect our economy, because China has made it really clear here, and this is the thing that really just gets me, my gears grinding, is that almost no one in this country is listening to what China is saying about this. And China's basically saying, until Trump and this dumb policy is gone, we are going to make sure that we make America suffer. That's basically what they're saying. And
particularly red and purple America, and the places they know Trump needs for support, they're making everybody suffer. But they picked some things especially to jack up some of their tariffs on, because they're smart that way. But
well, and economically, yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. So,
all right, I like it. Chipmunk milk. Hello, cliffhangers. We'll take them. Cliffhangers. Come here and hang around, baby. Here's how the way it's fascist is this. Mm-hmm. Fascism is more than policy. Fascism is like an aesthetic. It is a feeling. And what fascism is that rooted in toxic masculinity, or, that's been the phrase lately, but I would more say that's sort of like, small penis syndrome of the past, and rooted in arbitrary whims of a crazy madman. And you can go from Mussolini to Idi Amin to a whole bunch. You couldn't tell from 1 minute to the next what they were going to do, because they were, and that's where this fits all of that, because the tariff part, it isn't about him sitting there and doing something that is just heavy-handed, but will help his own people. Now, that may be a side effect, because they all insider trade, because Marge knows how to find those breaks, when the stocks go low, which is to just look in front of her what's going on. Even she's smart enough to, I guess she can read, but they probably have nice charts for her so she can see. And so I'm not saying they don't, the billionaire class doesn't.
They draw in crown. They draw in crown.
They do, exactly. Yeah. But it's the dominance. Right. That's what fascism is. It's the whoever the inside group is, inside race, inside gender.
Well, this is
whatever.
The dumbest fascism. Then this is the dumbest.
So the tariff is about Trump's deep. Just let me make this one point. It's about Trump's deep insecurity, and that he came in. He doesn't know how to sort of cooperate. Right. He was a kid in the playground who always stole everything and always he thinks that everything has a winner and a loser. There's no such thing as working together. So there's no such thing as a silver medal. There's no such thing like you know what I mean? Zero-sum game. And so he comes in, and the way he feels better about himself on those days you're talking about when he's spiraling is, I'm going to fucking take it to Canada. I'm going to take it to Europe, those bastards. I mean, he doesn't understand NATO well enough to get I wrote a huge Substack piece on this, and I've talked about this on here before. We designed it that way. We wanted to lead it. We wanted to be in control. We wanted to protect our interests. We wanted to pay more money than the rest of it. We also didn't want Germany and Japan, for weird reasons I can't think of, to rearm at that point in time. So I mean, there were reasons for that. The same with the trade. The way we set up the trade right after, where that was set up to our benefit. We knew that we would, in some places, there'd be higher tariffs against us, but we were looking at the bigger picture around the whole world. And so he doesn't see anything that way. He sees it as, we're paying more. It doesn't matter if we have the most prosperous country ever, which he's probably too stupid to realize. screw them, I'm going to raise tariffs and really make them pay their fair share. And so everything is a game of dominance. And that's why he's the perfect fascist. Everything is a game of which, Trump is stronger than you. Trump's race is better than yours. Trump's, he can get more women than you. I mean, that whole thing about how that came out one of those books that he'd like to sleep with the wives of his friends. I mean, Jesus, the fact that none of them ever went after him afterwards, I can't understand. But I mean, everything is a dominance play. So that's how the tariffs are fascist. But they're also idiotic because they're stupid and they're harming these companies that big companies often benefit from fascism. Well, he was screwing them. So yeah, they got pissed. But also what I was going to say, I'll just say quickly the whole thing I was coming on about him like losing his shit is because he was he was trashing Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, and was going to fire him and was going and the tariffs on China. And they leaked all of this stuff. So what did he do? The weak, wussy, flaccid, flabby, soft, can I think of any other words right now for that? Simp that he is he backed down to China, of course, and he backed down on firing Powell. And that's one of the reasons markets are up today. Because if he'd filed, in addition to all the other chaos, if he'd fired the head of the Fed, and so his people, to stop him from doing that, leaked it.
I understand the leaks, but can I wanted to maybe make another theory here that the CEOs of Walmart, Target, and Home Depot went in and told him that if you do this, we will destroy you. We will destroy you. Not only are we going to lay off as many workers as we possibly can, we will bring America and your administration to their knees with the economy.
We'll give them food stamps at the end of it with your face on it.
Right.
Because your image.
What Donald Trump fails to recognize and understand is that it is his party, the Republican Party, who did this to America, who unindustrialized America, who convinced us that we are all elites and we should all be elites and we should all, that work in offices and we should have no vocational skill whatsoever. We'll let the peasants in China do this. Over 50 years, China has taken advantage of that and built a powerhouse of an economy. And
I'll say quickly, that's where the tariffs, smart tariffs, and Sherrod Brown, to name one, was for some of those and help pass some of those. That's where there should have been tariffs because you have a smart tariff policy. You don't let China dump cheap crap because they don't pay prison labor here and undermine all these American companies. But with your allies who have similar working conditions, similar environmental regulations, that's who you can trade very freely with. Western Europe, Canada, all those kinds of places. Getting in trade wars with them is just the dumbest thing in the world. With China, it was Mexico for a while too, and whatever. Yes, we deindustrialized by fully opening everything up and not putting enough, tariffs and other regulations, really, really just basic regulations on those products coming in here to make it so that they couldn't just undercut everything in America and everybody wouldn't offshore everything.
Well, but the thing is, the American companies are undercutting mom and pop. I mean, for example, Target, one of the CEOs that was in the White House meeting, that I believe was telling Donald Trump, we will destroy you if you do not get your ass out in front of a microphone and say that you are not going to fire. Because Target, Walmart, and Home Depot, Jerome Powell is their boy. Okay. Donald Trump appointed Jerome Powell for corporations. Well, let's get this clear. Jerome Powell is not exactly the working man's Fed chair.
No, but he
not
also
at all
fired his own the guy he originally appointed for the FBI and the CIA. Like,
right.
Everybody always runs out.
But here's the point I want to make, because Target, sitting in that room, just as one example, they source 30% of their private label products. Target, the company Target, sources 30% of their private labeled products. They're labeled. It's their products that they are producing and importing to sell in their stores. 30% of those products come from China. Okay. A third.
It's called China. Just so you know.
China. If you go into a Target, if you're a Target customer still, and you go into Target and you're buying the cheaper level Target brand shampoo, okay, 1 out of 3 chances that was made in China. And the reason why you're buying it for the cheaper, not generic price is because Target sources it in China.
What are the
Now,
chances that if you walk into a Walmart that was built in China? Is it
I
98.5% or so?
actually I don't know the sourcing of
I don't go to. I refuse to go to Walmart, so
I
I don't
just
even
have
know.
the Target. But I want to also make this clear that Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's. Lowe's was apparently invited to this retailer meeting, but they decided not to attend. That's
That's interesting.
that's the news. But here I'll tell you this. As much as we don't want, because Americans should absolutely stress out about how much power Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's have. We should be breaking up these monopolies. We should be making sure that these corporations treat workers with humanity. They don't just treat them like a number and part of the cog in their international profit wheel. But as much as that's the truth is that Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's are integral parts of the working class. They're integral parts of the middle class. And they kind of economically, their power is the working and middle class. Like that is their power. Because without us, our consumerism, our buying power, our consumer confidence, they don't exist. Now,
yeah,
Walmart, Target, and Home Depot and Lowe's have seen a little downtick in consumer confidence. But the thing that Walmart, Target, Lowe's, and Home Depot, I'll leave Lowe's out actually because they didn't attend the meeting. But the thing that they understand the most is how their customers operate. And when their customers come in their stores and their stores are half empty, their customers are not going to buy. They're not going to spend money. And if they don't spend money, that's one thing that Walmart and Target have figured out. Like they know where to place shit in the store and how to get you to walk around.
Everything's a survey.
Psychology of shopping and shit.
It's a survey. Like
like the whole thing. The whole thing is a psychological operation. That's right. It's all a psychological operation to get you to buy more.
I have a friend who used to like run like one of those. He didn't run the whole thing, but he was on the team that did that kind of stuff for Kroger, which is based here in Cincinnati. It's
right. It's Dillon's,
actually the largest, right. And they're the largest supermarket chain in the world when you add everything that they own. And he used to do that. And so, I mean, they know everything.
They don't. You. Yes, they know. Well, and not only do they know everything about you, they know everything about shopping habits and how to get you to spend more.
That's what I mean. Like,
and what Walmart and Target, because they're competitors, they're direct competitors, and they're getting in the Oval Office, sitting down with the President of the United States. These two CEOs would love to, have like a theoretical cage match against each other. But they're in the Oval Office.
Can we do that just for fun? Like Monopoly?
I think we have too few Luigis, honestly, running around. We should have
Monopoly
Luigis.
UMC.
We need, we're going to need more Luigis.
No, I'm Monopoly mixed martial arts.
They
fight to the death.
Right. Do they wear monocles while they're...
They used to play that music in the background in Star Trek. You know what I'm talking about.
Well, and I think we give them monocles and machetes. That's what we do.
I like it. Or just like weird sticks like they used to do in Star Trek.
Yeah, but machete and monocle, it's, alliteration. So that's kind of why I went there.
Machete and monocle. Yeah, you're very illiterate.
I try to do that. But here's what I'll tell you that it should tell people out there. That Walmart and Target are absolutely exerting their influence and their power over Donald Trump. They are absolutely doing that. And the reason why they're doing that is because the economy is going to be bad for them. Folks, if the economy is going to be very bad for Walmart, Target, and Home Depot, it is going to be devastating to the working class. I don't know how else to present this. And I think that Walmart and Target going and warning Donald Trump that if he doesn't say he's not going to fire Jerome Powell and back away from China, that they're going to bury him. Because I think that's what it was. They went into the Oval Office.
I believe still that, with what I said here, I think it was a combination of all of those things, because he can get away with something more. Now, again, these are allies in the business class, right? So he may have floated it by them ahead of time. Or maybe they just obviously heard him talking Jerome Powell down and they got nervous and they're like, you better meet with us. But the point is that by leaking it, the people in corporate, America, like the rest of us who didn't know, all knew what he was planning to do. And I think a lot of them freaked out and got in his face like, don't you dare, and so he got pissed off because, again, he hates everything is a game of domination or submission. and he had to submit to these guys, these CEOs, and he hates that.
Well, I'll tell you that submission, he's about to submit to farmers because they're in the same position as Walmart, Target, and Home Depot, in that their businesses are in threat because of the trade war with China, specifically with China. And he is about to come to a headwind. He tweeted about it or put it on True Social. I don't know, it was last week or something, talking about the farmers and they should hang in there and they're great farmers and they're patriots because they hang in there. And he gave them a huge payment 2018. He's basically saying, I'll give you another hush money payment if it gets too bad. But that's the next group. That's the next demographic that he's going to come up against in the next few weeks. And then he's going to have to deal with the working class. Donald Trump, I said it on my show, I'm kind of ashamed that our country, especially MAGA, hasn't left this cult-like sense of this presidency.
Well, a lot of them
because of the due process problem that we have.
Well, again, like the things that we talked about the other day, I can't even remember, on various shows and whatever. I mean, and I put a video out about what happened to Chuck Grassley. That those folks in there, again, I can't vouch for, every one of them was MAGA, but most of them were dudes with a couple women mixed in. Most of them, they were all white, every single person there. I looked up the county. It's one of those like medium-sized cities. I'm trying to think of, is it Fort Madison or whatever in Iowa? Those are the places where we, much worse, Kamala than Biden. It's those are the places that killed us this time, where we got crushed in small metropolitan areas, like cities with 20,000 and 10,000, and so it was exactly. Oh, I think I see a David Shuster. We can invite him in. We do see a David Shuster.
I don't mean to interrupt your thought. You're talking about turnout.
You think I have thoughts? What are you talking about?
That's dangerous, by the way.
It is dangerous.
Hey,
I will introduce you. My thought. I don't know. What the hell was I saying? I don't even know.
How great David Shuster is.
I think I was.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. You're like how great he is. He's a great anchor.
David
Shuster
does
great videos on this channel.
He does. He's awesome, and but
he's horrible at camera positioning, but otherwise,
better.
that's great. That's great.
You're with camera positioning like I am with technical things in general, which is sound and video. So I think your problem is much less bad than mine, David, because you'll be on air just in a bad position, whereas people will be like, we can't hear you or see you, Cliff. Where are you? Are you in El Salvador? It's pretty much the question. Yeah. I shouldn't even make that.
Speaking of, did you see the Congresswoman last night on Laura Ingraham?
Did not talk.
She was pretty spicy, wasn't she?
Yeah, Congressman, is it Aronzi, I think, from Arizona? She dished it right back at Laura Ingraham. You could tell, like, Laura Ingraham,
Democrat or Republican?
She's a Democrat, and she went to El Salvador, and so Laura Ingraham was saying, well, what is it, the due process that you want from Abrego Garcia that he hasn't already had? And I think Ingraham thought that this would be a pushover, and she dished it right back at her. And you could see Laura Ingraham start to get frustrated, and then Laura Ingraham tried to change the subject. And
she tried to do whataboutism, like trying to have some kind of conduit between some murder case in Maryland and Garcia's case, as if they're related because there's people with brown skin in both stories. So like, no, these are the same story because Garcia has brown skin. This story over here has someone with brown skin in it. So
that is how they separate everything up at Fox.
Right.
Like,
well, I mean, that's the Jews. That's how these people think sometimes. So
no, I think you're right.
And she squashed that whataboutism. She was like, wait. That's totally off subject. That's not the story we're talking about at all. Why are we talking about this case over here? I thought you had me on to talk about Garcia.
Yep.
So.
Well, and as you guys know, because you guys have both been through like the media training stuff, there was a moment where Laura Ingraham said, "Okay, take a breath," like dismissing her and saying, "Take a breath," and it was like so obnoxious and witchy. I don't want to use the B word, but witchy. And to me, that was the moment.
We'll imagine what you were going to say there and just take witchy.
Rhymes with witch. And Laura Ingraham lost right there because she came across as so detestable and so disagreeable and obnoxious. And so, to me, it was like a clear victory for the Democrat over Laura Ingraham. And also, Laura Ingraham was not, I can only imagine the screaming match that she had with the producers after the show. Why did you prepare me for this? Why didn't I know she was going to be good? Because normally they book dopes on the who are
Well,
Democrats.
I was always trained for that stuff. When somebody says a line like that, you take a second and say, so do you think you won the debate because you said that? Do you think more people like you? Or do you think you just kind of came off of as stupid and obnoxious? Like you stop in the middle too to kind of, respond to them in their way they respond to you. But tying it into this, because I did recall what I was talking about before, and it is tied into this, was the Grassley town hall. And I was just making the point that again, because Tony was concerned and saying, well, that the MAGA cult hasn't ditched him. And yes, not enough of them have. But I can say that there obviously are plenty that are. And that whole town hall, if I were to draw up something that looked like MAGA, was located in MAGAville. I mean, again, white people, all mostly older, mostly, this was in, I think, Fort Madison, as I said before, I think is the name of the city of 10,000 people. That's all white, pretty much. I mean, those are the places that Kamala actually lost by a lot more, did much worse than Joe Biden did. That hurt her a lot. And so this was the type of place where you shouldn't be hearing stuff like, do your job, and I'm pissed, and we might as well just take down the Statue of Liberty, somebody said. I mean, like the responses.
Cliff, shameless plug here, but if anybody actually wants to see this video, Cliff now has this video, a video on this on his YouTube page, which is the Cliff's Edge YouTube.
Oh my God,
and it's already gotten a lot of views and seems to be sort of going viral already. And I think to the point though, Cliff, and Tony will appreciate this as well, I feel like there's a lot of MAGA folks out there who will put up with all kinds of different stuff, but they still want some guardrails on Trump, including the U.S. Supreme Court. And the idea that Donald Trump is defying the Supreme Court and not doing anything that they want, to me, I think that just causes people to freak out.
So, David, I think that's a good point. And I think we're going to, over the coming months, especially as the economy is careening towards a ditch here, it seems that we're going to find out that there are two different types of Trump voters. There are MAGA, which, David, you've been at some of these rallies, talked to some of these people. I know you've held microphones in front of their face before, and some of them say the wildest and craziest stuff into a microphone. And I would put those in maybe the cult category. But there's a lot of people out there that just voted for Trump because they believed his lies over what they viewed as Kamala's lies, right? They thought, oh, they're both lying, but I'm going to believe him because he keeps talking about grocery prices and I'll believe him. And I think all those promises that he made and all the promises that he's made about the economy that he has now created, because it's his economy now, like he's taken full ownership of it. This is his deal. And when this stuff collapses, we're going to see a difference between MAGA and former Trump voters. I think we are going to see a widening gap between these people. If you watch, have you seen the Byron Donalds town hall?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen that yet. Was it awesome?
So they're yelling and screaming. And the news is that Byron Donalds and his team not only screen for them to be registered constituents, but they also screen for them to be Republicans. So it was very heated. He was having a very rough time. So I think that we're going to start to see the difference between what MAGA is and these people who kind of believe anything and everything he says, and Trump voters who are willing to be like, no, that's not what I voted for. So.
Yeah, and I sort of wonder, I mean, maybe, Trump backed away from his threats to China and backed away from his trade war with Japan. And it seems like, and backed away from the idea that he was going to get rid of Jerome Powell, which would have caused the markets to go even crazier. I wonder, the markets are going to start recovering. How much economic progress is Trump now able to sort of make up that he has lost over the last couple of weeks? Because I think even he realized the economy was going south fast and we're heading for a recession, and he's going to get blamed for it, as he should.
Well, I'll give you this right now. The market is at 39,608. Now it is up from the previous closing, but it is still down from the way it opened today. It's still down the way it opened today. So it's still on very light ground. I don't think investors really like the idea that again, Walmart, Target, and Home Depot were in the Oval Office talking about empty shelves. I don't think that's any kind of indication that investors want. But I think the idea that Donald Trump, for whatever reason, would back away from his bullying of Jerome Powell and backing away from what is obviously not a fair fight in our trade war with China. we are not prepared in a war of trade with China.
Yeah.
So
No. Can I ask you something quickly, Tony, as the
Yeah.
technical guru you are?
sure. I mean, yeah. I
well,
don't know
no,
that I'm a
I-
technical
the
guru.
presenter
but yeah.
invite window here, so I can bring in like videos that I've downloaded, no
Yeah, you
problem,
can.
whatever.
It's on
Yeah,
And I've done
Substack.
that. But how do I bring in videos like where I just have the link?
You mean like the Twitter link?
This is
You
a
just-
different link.
You just go to present and you just select the link that you have opened in a Chrome tab. You got to make sure it's in the Chrome tab and you have the audio turned on. But
Yeah, and you got to
Okay.
do that before the show, because otherwise on StreamYard you'll knock yourself out.
So because I
Basically,
really
you have to load it. I mean, you have to load the stuff or have the tabs open when you start the StreamYard.
so
That
at this
makes
point,
sense.
like I can't really do it because
what are you looking for? What are you looking for?
there is a phenomenal, I would call it, bit of video from the Oklahoma City bombing 30 years ago when David Shuster was a young pup.
Cub reporter.
Do you have the link? Do you have the
I
link?
have it. I will. I
Put
do you want me
it
to
put it in the private chat here. Let's see if I can get this up here, and then I'll do this one favor, and then I'll head out.
Oh,
You can put the
only do this one for me.
well, I know this is for David. This is not for you.
I'll set this up with a little context here. So yes, 30 years ago, I was a cub reporter, street reporter in Little Rock, Arkansas, and on April 19th, 1995, I'd been at the station for about a year and a half. And that was that's Patriots Day, April 19th, the day the first shots were fired at Concord. And we were getting ready for a huge story that night because Arkansas was putting to death a white supremacist who had shot a cop, and he was being executed. And a lot of the racists and white supremacists were going nuts because the governor had scheduled the execution for Patriots Day, which is their sort of holy day, the day that the Waco raid happened, all that kind of stuff. So we had people like down at the prison in Arkansas, away near Pine Bluff, covering the execution of this white supremacist. And then at 9 a.m, all hell breaks loose in Oklahoma City. And what was so they sent me to Oklahoma City because, like, all right, you're not covering the inmate being put to death, and the owner of the station happened to be there, and he said take our plane, and we were able to sort of fly in. So went to Oklahoma City, was there for a week. When I got back, we started seeing all these connections between this guy Richard Wayne Snell, who was put to death in Arkansas, and Timothy McVeigh. It turns out they had spent time together. That there were some indications that McVeigh had visited him in prison months before the Oklahoma City bombing. McVeigh had spent time at the same white separatist camp in Oklahoma.
This conspiracy has been going on forever, and we just basically ignored most of it.
It was so many different pieces to put together, and this white supremacist encampment in Oklahoma, that they sent people to pick up the body of Richard Wayne Snell. And I'll never forget, and I love sort of investigative reporting. I was doing a lot of it when I was in local news. So the prison people tipped me off and said, you should go back through the prison logs for this guy, Richard Wayne Snell. It'll like make your hair stand up. And sure enough, Richard Wayne Snell had not watched any television, according to the prison logs, for several weeks. And then on the morning of the 19th at 9 a.m., he says to the guard, hey, flip on the television. At 9:02 is when the explosion happened. And by like 9:05, CNN and everybody's in with it. And Richard Wayne Snell looks at that and says to the guard, oh, they'll probably blame this on Muslim terrorists. Well, that night, when Richard Wayne Snell is put to death, his final words were, Governor Tucker, look over your shoulder. Hell hath fury. I am at peace. Well, Arkansas is over the shoulder of, Oklahoma's over the shoulder of Arkansas. I mean, it was like the connections were ridiculous and bizarre and frightening.
Somebody put the Turner Diaries in here and some of that stuff. I'm just making the point that, and I remember when was it Napolitano when she was it was DHS and had this report on the radicalization of some of the veterans who were coming home who obviously have certain skills. And they said it was, of course, they screamed there was bias against conservatives because it's biased to not want people to mass murder people and that kind of thing, and suppress this report. And I mean, my point is just how we got to where it's so open now with Donald Trump. We've known about all of this. This is all, it just was more in the shadows. And like a great reporter like you was there to cover it. But this has been, this part of the Republican Party has been festering for 30 or 40 years now. And so here we get young David covering it, Oklahoma City, and at that point, like Tony was probably in diapers playing with himself. And
Well, in the
I
station,
remember the
KATV Little
Oklahoma
Rock,
City bombing.
KATV Little Rock, they have always been an ABC like superpower. I mean, they dominated the state for years and years before I got there. They still do, and they have archived every one of their newscasts going back to the 1960s. And in the last 10 years, they got it all digitized. So every time they have one of these anniversaries, they go through the old archive tapes. And a buddy of mine who's still at the station says, "Oh yeah, Shuster covered this. Let's get him to talk about and help us remember what was going on." So they put together this
They
nice
brought
piece where
David back
Well,
in. How
let's
cool is that?
play it. See that little window down there, Cliff, that has my name on it? You just click on that little
I see it.
square.
I don't see your name on it, but I see.
Yeah.
Oh, now okay. Yeah.
you may have to fast forward to the little bit of the intro part, but whatever.
Click the add it to the screen.
No, I'm about to do it. David was talking about. Okay, we'll go.
There you go. All right, ready? Here we go.
Ready? Everybody ready? Let's do it.
KATV coverage of the Oklahoma City bombings from 1995.
That's right. Our evening anchor, Chris May, was working that day here at Channel 7. Chris, we know you weren't actually in Oklahoma City, but this was just a breaking news day in Arkansas history,
It was
too.
an unbelievable day and the kind of day you never forget. I was actually in Varner in South Arkansas at Cummins Prison. There was an execution that night of an Arkansas inmate who wound up, we didn't know it at the time, but who wound up having ties to Timothy McVeigh, who was the Oklahoma City bomber. They kind of ran in the same anti-government circles. But KATV did send one of our reporters that night, a colleague of mine named David Shuster, one of the finest reporters to ever come through the Little Rock market. He went on to Fox News and to NBC News as well. And when we talked about how we were going to cover the 30th anniversary today, I knew I had to reach out to David, and we talked about it a little bit earlier this week.
I'm David Shuster in downtown Oklahoma City. The frantic search for survivors here at the Alfred Murrah Federal Building continues.
Start at the beginning. Take us back to April 19th, 1995. I'm sure you were just starting your day at Channel 7, and just after 9 a.m., I'm guessing all hell broke loose.
All of a sudden, somebody says, "Oh, look at CNN." We turned it on, and there was, it looked like maybe some sort of gas explosion. Certainly, half of a building was missing, and we flew to Oklahoma City. And I remember the pilot saying that we were one of the last planes that was being allowed in before they were closing the airspace.
President Clinton expressed his outrage again today, calling the bombing an attack on the American way of life. Mr. Clinton said the perpetrators will have nowhere to hide.
It's still shocking, I think, 30 years later, to look at the damage to the Murrah building and really to all of downtown Oklahoma City. What was it like to actually be there?
It was horrible. There was such a frantic and desperate effort to try to dig through the rubble and see if there was anybody alive. And then there were worries about the building collapsing and the firefighters having to leave the building and then go back in. And also never forget, never mind, the week that we spent there and, the rains that came after a couple of days and feeling badly for the rescuers and wondering if anybody could still be rescued alive. And then President Clinton came to visit Oklahoma City.
You have lost too much, but you have not lost everything. And you have certainly not lost America. For we will stand with you for as many tomorrows as it takes.
It was heart-wrenching on so many levels.
The casualty count in the end was 168 lives lost, 850 injured. And of course, as you mentioned, the children.
We also understand that the truck was 2 floors directly below the daycare center in the Alfred Murrah Federal Building. 12 children were killed in the explosion. There are still 15 missing.
19 children killed in that bombing, David.
To sort of see some of the debris and the shoes and the toys, it was just heart-wrenching. I mean, it's just, look, this stands to this day as the worst case of homegrown domestic terrorism in U.S. history. And I remember at the time, until 9/11, this was the largest FBI investigation in U.S. history. The magnitude was so sort of striking. The lives lost, the white separatists, the white nationalists, all the connections with McVeigh. I just remember it just being a remarkably sad and horrifying story.
You interviewed a worker there who said something interesting. She said,
"It's carnage down there. It's like what you see in Beirut or Bosnia or Sarajevo. It's not what you see in Oklahoma City."
This bombing really did shatter the illusion that Americans were safe from acts of terrorism.
I think it was shocking both in terms of that the incident actually happened, and then also to that woman's point, I mean, when a building collapses or a building is exploded with all those tons of fertilizer, I mean, it causes horrific damage. And these are just citizens who are just starting their day, who are just sitting down at their office jobs, and suddenly the building collapses around them and they're literally sort of blown to bits. I mean, people in Oklahoma, of all, like Arkansas, you get along, you all want to raise your kids, just want to grow up happy, regardless of your political views. But to see that people would actually have to die because of political ideology was so striking and so shocking. And I think it was perhaps the beginning of a very different era in the United States where political violence started to sort of take off. And frankly, I'm surprised that there hasn't been another Murrah federal building attack like that on the scale. There have been, smaller attacks on abortion clinics, on IRS offices, but I'm frankly surprised that we haven't had another Oklahoma City bombing in the years since then.
All right. So let me say something quickly, because I want to say
KATV, Chris May, the anchor there, who was an anchor many years ago, and then he anchored in Philadelphia and then Boston and went home to be in Arkansas. I mean, they do a remarkable job for local news. It's incredible.
No, I mean, that was done really well. I'm sorry. I should have let you speak right after.
Right.
It's just I wanted to more talk about what was so impressive about you, which I know you're not going to do, so I'm going to do it. And I'm not saying when you were reporting on the scenes there as 17-year-old David Shuster. I mean, oh, that was David. That was awesome. Seriously, that was awesome. But go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, I had been reporting for a year and a half, and the station was very big on live with pieces. So, you're live at 5, 6, and 10 every day. So you get a lot of live experience, but I need to pull for you guys because you'll appreciate it even more than this. The very first live shot that I did when I was in Arkansas, it was to cover a ruling by the Arkansas Supreme Court about some ballot issue. And I had produced a little bit of stuff at CNN covering the Supreme Court before I went to Arkansas. So I was like, oh, I'll do it. And they sent me to the Supreme Court like 10 minutes before air. Get the opinion. You're going to lead the newscast. I didn't know where the Supreme Court was. I was driving around the Capitol. I finally found the Supreme Court. I raced in. I said, can you hand me this opinion? They give me this like 70-page thing. I'm trying to flip through it and read it. I go back outside. I put the earpiece in and I can hear the open to the local 5 o'clock. And I'm like, and so they, literally, they come to me 20 seconds later, and I was like so garbled. And my friends at the station said they were worried they were going to have to send an ambulance because I was holding the microphone so tight that I was white knuckling it. They thought I was going to collapse. And that was my first live shot. That's the
no
one.
pressure,
That's the
no pressure,
really
David, no pressure.
Well, the first live shot, I mean, yeah, first time I went on, I think it may have actually been Fox to do a debate. I remember the fear in me, and like now it's like it'd be like getting having cereal in the morning. But I mean, what I want to say, I mean, and again, like this is not to just sit here and like hagiography, if that's even how you pronounce it, but just sit here and be like David Shuster's amazing, whatever. But what you did there, because I know I've had to deal with local news, and local news is the most sort of he said, she said of all. They will not get political. It always has to be balanced. Even the guy there purposely made sure to say that you worked for Fox and NBC, which I noticed. So you got in one on each side.
And he did that first. He said Fox News first. He made sure to make that first.
But what David did so brilliantly there, and remember, we're speaking to an Arkansas audience here. Okay. So these aren't our people overall. A lot of good Democrats in Arkansas, but vast majority do not vote for us. Is by saying, that people, got along in a great place like Oklahoma or Arkansas and just wanted to go to work, no matter political ideology. So you played the, and you could tell me if I'm wrong and you didn't do this on purpose, but you played the both sides game, which then allowed you to launch into pointing out that you were surprised there hadn't been more attacks like that. And of course, you mentioned abortion clinics and the IRS, the two places that the right attacks and tries to, encourage stochastic terrorism against. And so you managed to hack a local broadcast and get our messaging into it. Can I
break this down in one word that David Shuster used? He said y'all. He said y'all when and that's what you're referring to, Cliff. He said y'all. David, I got one question about this, and only one question. I wanted to point out the y'all thing, but I got one question. Do you still own that tie-in suit, and do you still fit into it? That's what
I had the tie, that particular tie, the red speckle tie. I had that until about I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and I actually wore it. I think at the Al Jazeera gig. I don't think I still have that suit anymore, and I probably wouldn't fit into it. But
Tony, you can't ask men in our 50s those kinds of
Why?
questions.
But to your
I
point,
like
little
that
Cliff
tie.
point,
I
little
like that
40-year-old.
tie. I like the tie. I like the
You little-
suit.
no, the tie is fine. I'm talking about fitting into a suit, you little
Oh.
40-year-old.
Well, and in terms
Hey,
of fitting
I
into
don't
the
think-
audience, how about that transition?
I'm-
Cliff, you are so perceptive because yes, I mean, you need to sort of give the, and Tony will appreciate this too. I think people in Arkansas, Oklahoma, some of these smaller states and smaller markets, they have a little bit of chip on their shoulder. They think, they're a little bit sort of anxious about how they're viewed, particularly by the networks and particularly the relationship between local news and network television. And I think so by honoring them that way and saying, there's something great about Arkansas and Oklahoma, or you're just trying to raise your kids and you don't engage in political violence, it resonates with them and it makes them feel good. And I think there's a certain amount of truth to it. And then it enables you to then bring in and say, okay, but there have been, acts of violence and to sort of to make your point. So
I just thought that was brilliant. I mean, because again, I have, back when more in my PR days here, particularly here in Ohio or wherever, it doesn't really matter. In Cincinnati overall is, I think, voted 77% for Kamala Harris. I mean, it's a liberal city, even in a conservative state. Doesn't matter. The news here will not ever cover. It's always he said, she said.
Right.
And I would try to create spectacle and all sorts of stuff. Like, we were working against a Republican congressman. I think I told the story before. And Mike Pence came to town, and it was right after they created Space Force. So yes, I dressed up like an alien, and my wife, who was working on the project with me, dressed up like with a Space Force badge and other stuff. We stood outside. We made the news, and we made the cover of the Cincinnati Enquirer, I think. And that's what you have to do. Like, you have to find ways to hack the system, because they will never take one side politically, even if the one side is fascism, the other side is like moderate Democrats. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's so.
I agree.
You did that. You did that. So
I got one more question before I leave,
Yeah.
David. I'm going to see how good your Little Rock memory is.
Okay.
Is it soda? Is it pop? Or is it Coke in Little Rock?
Wow.
Which is it?
I think it's Coke. I think.
In parts of Little Rock, it's probably Coke. In other parts, it's probably soda. I don't think it's pop. Pop is.
That's
I
interesting.
mean,
So pop is
The only
here
thing,
in
the only thing I
Cincinnati.
really remember is you ask a question like that, and an Arkansas response is, "Do what?"
do
Every question
what?
is like, "Do what?"
So-
What
do-
you what
do
you ask?
what?
Do what?
Do-
You want to interview
it's-
the mayor? Do what? Everything's
Do
like,
what?
do what?
Do what?
What
Do
is it in the Ozarks, Tony?
What they call soda? Well,
Yeah,
when
I
I was a kid,
saw,
my
like,
my
a
my
map
mother
somebody put
my
together.
mother is from
Yeah.
up by Quincy, Illinois, Palmyra, Hannibal area, and it was pop or soda pop. And when she was younger, she called it sody pop. When I was a kid, in the Ozarks, it's called soda. In Central Missouri, it's soda. So, but my mom still said sody pop, so I always say sody. To me, it's sody.
Oh my
So,
God. That's
yeah.
yeah.
Like when
So
I
here
ask
it's-
my kids, "You want some sody?" So it's
Right.
sody.
So
in
here
my
it's
house.
pop or soda pop in this area, in the Cincinnati area. But when I met my wife, I worked on a few campaigns down in Kentucky, where we were, at least in Kentucky, in Louisville, which I learned to say right too. You have to say it like you got food in your mouth. You can't say Louisville, Louisville. When you're down there,
Louisville.
Louisville. Yeah,
Louisville.
you say, there you go. You're getting there. You say Coke, and then they ask what color Coke you want.
What
Right.
color?
And if you're like, well, like light or white or whatever, it's like Sprite. I don't know. This somehow probably has something to do with the Klan. I have no idea, but I'm kidding. But it's like crazy. Like, you're like, I want a Coke, but the light kind. I want a Coke, the dark. It's like, really? Can't we just say? Well, can I just say the word fucking Sprite? Is that so bad? I don't know. In any case, I did see a map. I don't remember where it is, and I've got it somewhere. I have to find it. That mapped out the entire country and what it was called everywhere, and it was so funny.
Well, the chat's lighting up with where they say what. I have a way of making the chat get all riled up. David Shuster, I'm glad that you came today, and I'm glad that Cliff gave us this little archive of a clip because it is very interesting to see where someone has come from and why their expertise is the way it is. So,
well, he sent it to me. I'll say quickly, Tony, and like that needed to be shared with everybody. We lost David.
Yeah, I think we lost his connection a couple minutes ago.
He'll be back, I'm sure.
He got mad. He got mad at our soda talk. That's probably what it
Yeah.
was. He's
I
like,
think
yeah, we're getting
it was you for all the y'all talk. You just got him
Probably.
upset.
He's like, oh, the y'alls, the yins, the whats. Well, anyways, I'm gonna have to head out. It was a great clip by Shuster. Such a sad moment in American history, but I
No,
think
it was.
I actually believe that the Turner Diaries were kind of
Yep.
living back through that. If you look at what the Turner Diaries actually says, and how these extremists kind of treat it as the Bible, their religious document. But I will say that the Oklahoma City bombing, as devastating as it was and horrific as that homegrown, if I can say this, homegrown terrorism is, Bill Clinton used that moment to really try and make sure that those movements, the American people didn't allow those movements to get inside their communities and get
Yep.
inside their
Well, and
institutions.
bring us back together. I mean, can you, again, like, that's another thing watching it, which is, I saw some points that different folks made. Lefty Gramps earlier made a point about, Clinton engaged in some of the neoliberalism too, and he did in some of the trade deals. And I mean, I worked for Bill Clinton just like I worked for Biden. I'm willing to criticize our side when we were wrong, and we the Republicans led the way, but we joined them on some of that stuff. What was my point here?
Clinton.
Yeah, which is the way he stood up there and spoke from the Bible, which obviously in that part of the country is going to play well, and tried to bring everyone together in a moment like that. And you imagine if that were to happen now with Donald Trump, who probably would have inspired it to happen, or directly. Well, okay, I won't say other stuff that will put me in legal jeopardy. But B, would be, would, of course, would he ever think about how even then, when we were winning in Arkansas because of Bill Clinton being from there, and the map was different, we won more rural voters. Clinton won Louisiana once, which now you think about that. He won Kentucky, but he didn't win Oklahoma. That was still a Republican state. And then he went to that Republican state. He didn't care. Like the Trump, of course, during COVID and other times, it was all red versus blue states. You know what I mean? Didn't matter to Bill Clinton because we were Americans. And when somebody murders people in Oklahoma, you go to Oklahoma and you try to make people feel better, because that's what humans do who have any kind of decency to them. And so that was, of course, noticeable too, because of course we would never see anything like that from Donald Trump if we're in New York or Los Angeles or a place like that.
Well, and having Clinton in that moment from Arkansas, having experience in Little Rock, and then seeing that David Shuster, our friend, was there on the ground at the Oklahoma City bombing from News 7 from Little Rock is quite the telling story. And maybe Clinton, may not have been the exact right person for that moment in time, but it seems like him being from Arkansas and the former governor of Arkansas didn't hurt.
I think that was a good, I think that it was a Democrat who and because who could reach across the aisle and say the right things, that it was a Democrat from Arkansas. And so you're right. And one that attended, a Baptist church there. He knew how to speak a language that would bring folks together afterwards, but also the kindness, the decency to want to do that.
Yes,
and
I believe
and and that's again what's lacking in the current guy. And I always take all this crap from and I'm sure I will from a few people here, but I don't care. Like either not everything is black and white. You're either horrible or you're terrific. Things are gray. And I've always outlined the many ways, and one of the biggest ones being the Iraq War, that George W. Bush was one of the worst presidents in the history of this country, and awful. And yet, even he would have gone and done the right thing. He, of course, exploited 9/11 after it later and used it politically because he was a Republican bastard. But initially, said the right things when he spoke. And Donald Trump would not even be able to bring himself to do that. So it wouldn't even be a moment.
One last point I'll make.
You've said that like 8 times.
I know.
Awesome.
On Clinton.
And David's router blew up, just so everybody knows. He
Oh.
texted me, so we are not getting David Shuster back.
Yeah, well, that's probably the deep state. But one more thing I'll say on Clinton, since
It's
we're not
JD
gonna,
Vance.
I was really trying to hold on to make sure you get David back, but I got to go. But Bill Clinton you mentioned that the language that he spoke to people, because I think as much as we would look at Donald Trump and say there's no way he would be able to bring the country together around an event like the Oklahoma City bombing, there's not too many Democrats that really would either, because not many Democrats speak that language. Not many Democrats want to speak that language. Not many Democrats are willing to go to those places and speak that language to those people. So
no, I think that's a terrific point. You need a Bashir.
Yeah.
You need somebody, governor of Kansas, whose name is eluding me. You need somebody who I think maybe has been a Democrat, at least in a purple state or somewhere. There's exceptions to that. There are some Democrats in blue states that, come from a background of having spent time in church or temple or whatever it may be. But I think even more so when it's that area, having somebody who is from that area. I mean, the regionality of it. The fact that Bill Clinton had an accent, you know what I mean? Like just everything made it, Donald Trump would come in with his gruff whatever. And, he'd talk about 2 Corinthians and, whatever other crap he'd have to say.
The Bible is a great book. I used to draw in it with crowns.
Now I'm selling it for $17.95. It's on sale.
Sale.
I autographed it.
Trump Bible. Trump Bible. All right. Well, I'm gonna go. I'm sorry that you're not gonna have David Shuster after I go.
I think I can handle it alone.
right,
These days it tends to be a hour 20 or so kind of deal. So these folks have 10, 15 more minutes where we get to hang out together, and maybe I'll talk about a few of the things I intended to, because I was going to celebrate, and now you're sitting there, and I'm going to make you stay 1 second longer. The Democratic celebrating was going to be that Dick Durbin announced he's not running for re-election.
Hey, yeah, I said
Holla frickin' Luya.
I said good riddance.
Literally one of the weakest Democrats, maybe the weakest in the Senate, makes Chuck Schumer look
and
like
he's one of the oldest,
the
too.
Terminator.
He's one
And
of the
yes,
oldest.
and he's the one who was running judiciary when, I don't know, only a few scandals, let's say, hit Clarence Thomas and Alito and whatever, and would not. They should have spent every minute investigating those sons of bitches. And he stuck to so I'm so happy because it's Illinois, such a blue state. We're going to get a fighter, I think.
Well, let's get someone who knows the word y'all. Let's get that. So
there you go.
Yeah, we'll find someone that knows the word y'all. And y'all have a good day. And Cliff, you too. We'll talk to you folks later.
Hey, thanks for joining, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All righty then. So Tony Michaels has moved on to do other things. David, as I said, his router exploded as reasons to not come back on this show go. That is about as good of one as I can think, So let's see what else we have. We didn't talk about what is happening with the Tesla numbers yet. I thought that would be fun. Just, for everyone to go into their afternoon with in a really good mood and be like, yeah, because how can you not be excited about that? Let's see. Look at that. Oh no, it looks like Elon's upset. And what's cool is we're live streaming. I live stream to Twitter purposely, just in the hope that he'll see it somehow or somebody there, and I'll annoy them. Tesla's first quarter earnings are out, and they're real bad, folks. That's the actual article here. Called a fork in the road for Tesla CEO Elon Musk. I'll even read it in a dramatic voice. Tesla released its first quarter financial results Tuesday after the markets closed. And they're a doozy. The car company's total revenue for the quarter fell 9.4% from last year, missing Wall Street expectations by around $1.8 billion. Profits fell dramatically as well, with Tesla reporting 71%. I cannot do that without laughing. Less net income. Whoa. $409 million compared to a year ago when it earned $1.39 billion. The one bright spot on Tesla's balance sheet was regulatory credits. In other words, of course, he found ways to get money from the government because that's the only way he's ever done anything that's been remotely successful. We're tallied up $595 million in sales. Here's the key part. Were it not for those government credits, notes the electric vehicle blog Electrek is what it's called. Tesla would have lost money this past quarter. I want everyone to sit with that for a second. If not for the government giving money to the Doge guy who thinks he should fire people on Friday afternoons with emails that say don't come in on Monday, who let the people watching Ebola go, who let the people watching the nukes go, who fired all these FAA workers and suddenly there were more plane crashes, who fired people, all sorts of people in the IRS, so all these billionaires are going to cheat on their taxes and no one's going to be looking at all, and then just fired all sorts of people in all sorts of jobs in places where you had no idea what they did, what their function was, how useful they were, just dropped them, tossed them. That guy, who obviously thinks that it's corrupt because it's the government, but $595 million that he took from the government is the only reason his piece of shit company, where he's managed to alienate every single person almost who would have any interest in buying his crappy, falling apart, with wire issues and fucking panels falling off cyber trucks and everything else, his crappy cars. That felt so good. I can't even tell you. I can read more in a dramatic voice if you really want me to. In a letter to investors, Tesla said without a hint of irony that global market turbulence and its political unpopularity were at least partially to blame. Gee, could they have just written Elon fucking Musk in there and not wasted all that time on all those words? Your CEO, the one that your board members, who I think your CEO almost handpicked, who are too effing cowardly. Why did I say effing? I'm cursing constantly now. But in any case, who are too cowardly to fire, as he should be, as anyone would be. There's going to be a shareholder lawsuit against this person, as there should be, besides all the other lawsuits, because he's not doing the job there. He's purposely alienating customers. He's not paying attention to the company at all. And it's almost like he's trying to destroy shareholder value on purpose. And of course, his big thing is only be a Doge 20% of the time. Okay, yeah. So you'll only be working for Donald Trump and the right that hates electric vehicles and tries to get rid of subsidies for them and all that kind of stuff. And you'll be cutting people's jobs and screwing people over. You'll only be doing that with 20% of your time. We all feel much better. You solved the whole problem now, Elon. I think he's so screwed the name Tesla at this point that, remember Enron? Remember which one was it? Philip Morris, whoever, that became Altria? There is a point where in branding, you go beyond the point of no return and you just have to change the name of your company. And I honestly think at this point, they could do all the greatest charitable acts. They could fire Elon Musk today and do all the greatest charitable acts and whatever. But brands are about feeling how whether you have warm feelings towards something, positive feelings, and the net negative feelings toward just that brand that he's created. I don't think it can recover. I think the company can recover if they get rid of him and all of his little lackeys, get away from politics, or at least be on the side of politics that the people who buy their cars are on. Like, maybe not even talking about anything else, but environmental sustainability, climate change, and in the way that a smart person would who's selling those products. But also, they have to change the name from Tesla because it's just no one is going to buy something called Tesla at this point. Doesn't matter. Like, he's made that so toxic. It's the way Trump, like all these places, once Trump ran for president the first time and said all the racist garbage, whatever, those people fought to have the Trump name taken off their buildings because people were moving out. Nobody and people weren't going to his hotels. They took those stupid names off. I mean, some of his hotels were still okay because aren't as many of them, and his dumbass billionaire friends, and some of them can go and still spend money there. But when it comes to like all these places where people were living, and these are people that are multimillionaires, by the way, right? They're not like poor people, but they didn't want to be associated with it. So he said to take his, that's what you do to a brand when you behave in the manner in which Elon Musk has. So yeah, that was the Tesla crashing part of the day. JD Vance killing. Well, again, last person 7 hours he saw the Pope before the Pope passed away. Dropped the Ohio State trophy. I'll tell you folks, it broke it, or he didn't drop it, he broke it. That's a big thing in this state that roots very heavily in almost cult-like fashion for Ohio State. A lot of the state does anyhow. So, it's just more JD Vance being an awkward loser. And we all enjoy that. When he went to meet with the Indian Prime Minister Modi, you may have seen those pictures. Like, Modi didn't seem like he wanted to be anywhere near him. He was like, oh, keep the Grim Reaper away. Like, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't shake my hand. He like grabbed one of his kids almost as like a human shield. So yeah, that's the Vance. You know, there wasn't as much to say there, and we've really talked about everything else. It was a long conversation on Trump freaking before. Anybody else here have anything else that is fascinating, interesting, awesome, fantastically cool? I don't think I've done my who's going with me for a while, but I will, instead of getting all into that, I just will say to everybody, obviously super chats and stickers help out the program, joining our Patreon. We've got people listening on Substack. If you're an unpaid subscriber and become a paid subscriber, that helps us out. These are all things that let me do all of this stuff. So I'm going to ask kindly for anybody, we don't care, 99-cent super sticker, $1.99 super chat. It could be joining, Patreon for $3 a month or Substack for $5 a month. Really, whatever you can do to support all of this program, this effort, I ask you to please do. I see that 2 folks have already been awesome enough. So let's see if we can get a couple others to join them. Jim Williams, Jim. It's always fantastic. Has gifted 5 Cliff's Edge memberships at YouTube, which is outstanding. Thank you, Jim. You already do so much more than enough, but that is very kind. And Sheldon Hughes, so put Jim up there. Sheldon Hughes, who again, always here to help out the show, has gifted a Cliff's Edge membership. You 2 guys are fantastic. Anybody else? Come on, I don't want to do who's coming with me. How about just one person, one thing, 99 cents, $1.99, anything to support the show, support the efforts. And there we go. Sheldon. From now on, I may just say anyone but Sheldon Hughes, because you are too good. Thank you. That was very kind of you, $2. Because you do more than your part here by a lot. And I will, at some point, the folks, we're going to come up with something special. I've been talking to other folks about Sheldon and Jim and you guys. There's a few of you that have constantly supported the show. And you deserve, my thanks and all of us to show you how important it is to us. And then Michael McAndrews, who also pops in and gives these larger donations. Fantastic. Who I think is a member at Substack or is certainly a member at Patreon. One of the other, Lefty Gramps, same thing. Super sticker for $3. I should make sure to always mention you 2 guys too. You guys are terrific. And the support you give is greatly appreciated. Sheldon, this is very, very kind and more than I deserve, I promise you. But it's still very kind of you. All right, Chris Doug, $1.99 super chat. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. So there we go. And Michael's been a member for 4 months. So he's a member of YouTube too. You remember everywhere, Michael? I feel like you are. I feel like Lefty Gramps is. I feel like Sheldon Hughes is. I feel like Jim Williams is. And it may just be, if there are others out there that are, let me know. But you 4, I think, we have to create our own category for you. So we're on Substack today through the RTMP. So some of those folks will be listening tomorrow. To let you guys know, let them know. I've got a great guest lined up. Well, we won't tell you who it is yet, but I will release that tomorrow morning and start letting everybody know. It will be on just on Substack tomorrow because that was the show they gave me and they support it. So that's the one that that they get to themselves. And I will be on the phones as usual. We'll be on at 2 p.m. So same bat time, just different bat channel. Amped Up with Cliff Schechter is the name of it. And you can find it through at Cliff's Edge over at Substack. And you can also find it if you look for Blue Amp over there. And David Shuster will be joining also, and we should have some fun. So I think we're gonna have a great time, and like we always do in these things, right? We come in with basic topics we want to touch on, but I view all of this as an experience, right? Like we're if stuff comes up, like I thought of that David Shuster Oklahoma City video, and you guys just really needed to see that. It was outstanding. And so topics are loosely planned, but whatever comes up along the way is, we're going to make sure to chat about it. Thank you. What did I see? I saw somebody who said something very kind. There we go. Thank you. Gene 8047 just followed. Thanks, Cliff, fellow Ohioan. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. If you're, I don't know if you're saying here, Substack, YouTube, wherever you are following, though. I mean, preferably all of them. But wherever you're following, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Anybody else have anything else for me to say before we put this one to bed? As I told you, I think it's 2 weeks from, in 2 weeks, I'll be doing the Tuesday one too. So I was a guest on Matt's yesterday for a bit. We'll see about next week, but in 2 weeks I will be co-hosting it. So I'll do both Tuesday and Wednesday, in addition to Thursday at Substack. But if no one else has anything else to say here, I think we may be at that point, my friends. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast today. I hope you had some fun. Hope you learned some things. Hope you enjoyed seeing David Shuster as a young pup. And hope you also enjoyed the Trump, Elon, and JD Vance Schadenfreude, and the fact that hopefully we will get a strong Democrat from Illinois in the Senate soon. General Putnam's here says they're attacking our national parks and monuments now. Yeah, they were always going to get there. I think the parks started a little while ago, but yep, that's land that can be developed by some greedy asshole. So why wouldn't they do it? I guess I'll have to check out Substack, Michael McAndrews. Okay, so you haven't yet. I will send you an email if you haven't, Michael, or reach out to you. I know I saw you on Patreon or somewhere, but I'd love for you to check it out. That would be great. Substack. What do we do? Hold on. Sorry, I missed something. Substack is cool. See, Lefty Gramps gets it. He's there. And Sheldon Hughes, great show. Cliff, I think, I am at Blue Sky too, Michael McAndrews. I just, at this point, I put so much time into all of this that anything that for the most part, I'm going to create that is going to be unique. Let's just say something I'm going to create that I'm going to put up first at Substack or YouTube or Patreon, because those are the places where I can make a living. Blue Sky doesn't really do that, but I'm there. I'm up there. I tell you to follow me there. I think I'm somewhere around. I think I need a few more followers to get to 50,000 there. So not quite there yet, but yeah, I pop on over there and I certainly put up my videos and my Substacks and other stuff there. Jean said that she saw me on Hal Sparks' show. I still do that. We just moved that down because the Substack stuff takes time too, and whatever, to every other week. So I was on Jean last week, but not this week, and should be on with Hal next week. And Hal was nice enough to do a raid and send his folks over here. So, but I think that is it. What do we have up here? Mayday 50. Oh, is that, sorry about that. Lefty Grams. Is this for May 5th? Are we doing another protest? Because that would be outstanding. These protests have been great. I've been putting up a lot of video at the YouTube channel. Go check out the YouTube channel at Cliffs_Edge and go subscribe. I think we just passed 117,000 subscribers, so we're moving in the right direction. But that is it, guys. I think I have to call it a day now. Thanks for being here. And have a great afternoon. Hopefully I'll see you all at Substack tomorrow, again, 2 p.m. Eastern, amped up with Cliff Schechter. And as we say during these moments when I'm about to shuffle off to the rest of my day, thank you for being here. And as the sun sets slowly in the west, I bid you a fond farewell.